Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, spirits of all ages, a very big welcome to you to the BlunderSpeaker Show. Whether you're new here or whether you're coming back indeed, this is a rather exciting and a little bit special. I know I've said this a bunch in the past, but it's a rather exciting episode for me. It's not really an episode in truth. It's not really a playthrough either. It's something a little bit different, as you've probably seen from the thumbnail and all the rest of it. It is indeed a video guide, a kind of a primer for a team here that I'm really excited to bring to you. But look, let's start with the simple stuff first. My name is Untitled Goose. As I say, a warm welcome to you. I'm really glad you've clicked on the video. If you are indeed new here, hopefully you'll enjoy the video. Hopefully you'll think about sticking around and watching this and all the rest of it. So, you know, I'm really, as I say, excited about this. If you're new and you haven't seen what I do here on the channel before, and you're wondering to yourself, why has this guy already made like 12 mistakes? That's because BlunderSpeaker is the name of the game here. I do this in one take. Everything I record, well, maybe not playthroughs, I do a bit of editing on those. But when I'm making an episode, I just don't want to keep doing it and trying it and changing it and trying to make it perfect. I just go with the flow. So once I start, I come in laughing usually because I always make like 3 mistakes when I try at the start, and then I'm usually laughing about those as I'm actually recording the one I'm gonna keep. This is already long enough that I'm going to keep it and I'm not bothered starting again. So we're just going to go with the flow here. What are we looking at today on the video? I'll give you a brief run of what you're actually going to see in this video if you've already stuck through the first 2 minutes. I'm going to talk about what this team is and how it came to be. I'm calling this team the Untitled Goose Team. After the Untitled Goose game, but we'll get into all of that and why I've come up with such a ridiculous name. We'll go through a little bit of a brief history on sort of the origin of the team. As I say, I did kind of discover / create this specific 4 spirits, but the background of this is a bit storied, and I'll go through a little bit of that. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to kind of show how the combo works. I'll look through kind of some of the spirit panels on the screen and do a little bit of that, which I usually do as part of my playthroughs anyway. So we'll have a look at some of the details, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go in on the table here and do a little bit of a demo. We're not going to go through gameplay. Hopefully this video will not be too long, so I'm not going to go through and put invaders on the board and all the rest. So I'm just going to kind of show you the operations and a bit about the mechanics and sort of the engine, let's say. So we'll do a bit of that, and then I'll close out at the end a little bit around sort of some of the games I've done with this, talk a bit about the outcome and sort of how I feel about the thing in general, and talk a little bit about some kind of pros and cons as well. So that's kind of the general gist of kind of all of that. I do have some notes because I need to keep myself kind of on track and not get too caught off side with, you know, talking about beer on the table and all these other things that I usually do. So I want to try keep this kind of a little bit more sort of refined than the usual chatty sort of thing. So I'm going to keep moving with it and talk a little bit first about sort of how this team came to be in a sense. So as I say, there's a history behind kind of the Serpent sort of part of this combo, but generally speaking, a couple of months back, some of the kind of people on the Discord server, which I talk about quite a bit, in the high level optimization channel particularly, we're doing a lot of talk about kind of 6-6, that type of thing, and we sort of got to talking about how can we, is there a team, let's say, can a team be found that beats everything at quote unquote 100%, right? So we were kind of talking about sort of, in part, what's the best team in the game is kind of the question, but also sort of, is there a team that can just win all the time into all of the 6-6s? Doesn't matter what it is. Clearly here, 6-6, you know, I'm going to talk about this a lot in the future. I'll have my own dedicated episode for 6-6, so I'm not getting into that sort of the detail of that right now. But generally speaking, you can probably be aware that there's a lot of really high difficulty elements of different combinations, and sort of to be able to beat everything, you need to have a whole varied set of tools in your toolbox, which is generally extremely difficult to do, to have something for everything and everyone. So anyway, we had a user, Baby Sea Turtles, came up with a really powerful team a couple of months back. You may well have heard of it, called the Ninja Sea Turtles. It's a team that Red Revenge picked up after Baby Sea Turtles created it, and he went on a crazy heater with that team. I won't say any more about it because he has a lot of that on his channel, and I'll leave that for his channel. Definitely do go and check that out because he's done some crazy work with that team. And that team very quickly became known as the best and most broken thing in the game, more or less. And very soon after that, I was doing a lot of thinking around what kind of broken teams are available. And I was thinking through different combinations. And I kind of stumbled upon, or well, came upon and sort of created this. Now, what is this? This is a team that I wanted to take in, as I say, in this kind of experimental sort of side of Spirit Island, to sort of go and drill down and try find a way to beat everything at 100%. Now, this team, I should have probably started. How long am I in? I'm 7 minutes into the video. I haven't even named the spirits that are in the team yet, which is terrible. So what the team itself, you can see it on the table here, albeit with a slight warping off to the side. So it's very difficult to get 4 spirits on the table, all with the overhead camera here. So you can see kind of there's a bit of a fall away and a warping here. Apologies for that, but I couldn't do anything about it. So we've got Fractured Days, Split the Sky, which is a part of every broken combo, it seems. We have Serpent slumbering beneath the island. We have Shifting Memory of Ages with the mentor aspect over here. And then the sort of glue that holds everything together. And the new sort of my part of this is Finder of Paths Unseen. Now, Fractured, Serpent, and Shifting Memory is a combo that goes back years in this game. This combo has existed before I even ever knew Spirit Island existed as a board game. So I will not take any credit at all for coming up with the concept of Serpent and building broken combos around this spirit. You may well have heard of this kind of serpent cheese kind of thing. It's been around for so many years, and people have done various iterations on this, and it's all highly broken. Usually it's based around getting as much of your serpent's presence into play and kind of leveling up and becoming like that awoken serpent. And there's kind of 2 variants, let's say, and sort of some spirits get drafted in and out accordingly, depending on which variant you're going for. One variant is more about get all the serpent presence off and get it totally leveled up. And then the other variant is a little bit more around getting everybody leveled up, which is more around the card Absorb Essence. We'll go into those now when we look at the spirits, but some combos actually take elements of both, and they just it's all essentially just really broken proliferation, loads of proliferation, get loads of energy, loads of presence out, draft loads of majors, and do all sorts of crazy things. So again, you've probably heard of that in the past. I won't dwell on the fact, but that is definitely a thing that I had nothing to do with the sort of conception of. Now, everybody knows about that sort of combo and the fact that it beats like almost everything. Like, if I go back, I was reading through it today, actually, posts from like 2022, 2023 in Board Game Geek and stuff like that, where people are like playing quad adversaries and all sorts of stuff. So this sort of core was already beating crazy difficulty games in the past. So it's well known to be certainly one of the best teams, if not the best kind of team that existed up until quite recently, I would say. The one problem with this team, however, was that it was a couple of sort of almost not corner cases, but there are certain combinations of adversaries that you kind of can't beat with that core. Generally speaking, Habsburg Livestock and Sweden as a combination, you kind of couldn't beat that with this team. There's very little that you can't beat, but that's certainly one of them, because I've talked about it on the channel already before, and we've seen in my playthroughs the very specific angle that they attack you from with the lost condition ravages on the second turn. It sort of circumnavigated all of the strength of the original Serpent combos. So the Serpent combos were like, I beat everything except this one thing. Now, I sort of was thinking through, and I was like, is there a way that we can go and make that work? Can we bypass that problem and sort of make this that 100% team that we're talking about? So that was the kind of main unresolved issue there. For me, there was also 1 or 2 others. I think England Habsburg Livestock is another problem for that team. because the team is kind of very much built around, as I say, get loads of stuff out, get loads of majors out, do loads of really strong, powerful stuff. But that angle of specifically England leading Habsburg puts a lot of pressure on the loss condition with the Habsburg double bills every time. And if you get the cards lining up, which it frequently does with England, you can have like 2, 3, 4, 5 different bills in lands. And when they're doing the double Habsburg thing with the double towns, you can easily lose the game. And you've got like, anywhere from 3 to 6 spirits involved, depending on which variant you were looking at. And any one land can kill you. So there again, that's another sort of very narrow edge case here that I sort of knew existed with this team, and it was a weakness of the team. So I wanted to sort of pick out and try to find a way to shore up those weaknesses. And I came across Finder. I say I came across Finder. It's my favorite spirit in the game, and I've played plenty of 6/6 with this spirit, and it's highly, highly, highly broken. And I had a brainwave basically one day. Again, I was chatting a bit with Red Revenge sort of directly while he was going through and doing all the stuff he was doing with the other team, and I was talking to him about this. And essentially, what I had was I had found the mentor sort of iteration of this team. There wasn't really much said about the mentor iteration because by the time mentor came out, a lot of people had put the sort of cheese stuff to the side. But mentor came in, and some people had been playing with this and trying out the new variants, which I didn't know about. I hadn't read about that anywhere. So I looked at mentor and I thought, actually, here's a really cool synergy. Mentor can donate the boon of ancient memories. And again, I'll bring all this up on the screen now in a minute. And that can give you like an accelerated avenue into the Serpent sort of kicking everything off. So I saw that Mentor was a very immediate upgrade on the old memory stuff, and I was thinking to myself, does that do it? Does that give you enough of a boost at the very beginning where you can now start to spend more of your actions on more things like elemental ages, and therefore shore up particularly the HLC and Sweden matchup? And we were kind of running some numbers and we were looking at board configurations and stuff like that. And we realized that no, that still wasn't going to be enough. There were still plenty of board configurations here where you just still don't have enough with those 3 spirits to be able to guarantee that you don't die on turn 2. So kind of again, we were like, right, well, we need a 4th spirit in here. And then Finder was the one that I like I said, I kind of had almost a brainwave. We're like, hang on a second here. This spirit or this team is all about getting hyper proliferation going early. There's certain things that we're trying to narrow in on and problems we're trying to solve. And I immediately realized that Finder could potentially be the answer. So I'm like, I was really excited, started to play it. And I knew within 2 turns of the first play test that I did with these 4 spirits that the game was broken. And I had found something different than everything I'd played before. And as you know, if you're watching this, or well, not as you know, but if you know any of my previous content, I've played a lot of broken stuff. I've played quite a lot of 6/6. So I'm familiar with what the super teams look like. Once I played two total turns with this team, I was like, this is far better than anything I've ever played before. So that is kind of the history of what it all is. I won't waffle on too much because I'm going to do it. I'm going to show it, and you're going to sort of see what that looks like. But that was kind of the thing. I do want to call out here. And there was, I was chatting after the fact with a Discord user who said they didn't want their name mentioned, which is fair enough. And they said that they had actually come across this 4 exact spirits themselves. They did a bit of testing within the past and they knew it was broken, but they hadn't written anything about it. There was no history or recorded history, let's say, of that. So look, their word is I've no reason to doubt their word. So they apparently did find this team before I did, but something tells me, I suspect they maybe didn't quite realize how broken it was, because otherwise I feel like they never would have shut up about it. But anyway, look, that's just kind of a funny aside. I may not have been the first one to do this, or certainly maybe I'm the first one to find the very specific configuration we're going to see. Anyway, I've waffled for 15 minutes. Let's actually get in and look at how this team functions. So I will move along here. I will now do a bit of a sort of a bringing up this kind of thing on the screen here, because I think it's nice to kind of look in and zoom in on the cards, which clearly from the overhead camera you won't be able to see here. Let me see if I bring the right view up. No, I knew I'd do that. We won't use the card cam today. First of all, we'll look at Fractured Days. And now what I'm certainly not going to do here is do a walkthrough of each of these 4 spirits, because I will be here forever if I'm going to do all of that. I'm sort of assuming if you're watching a video like this that you at least have some kind of understanding of how these spirits work. Hopefully you do. If you don't, maybe jump offline, go and sort of have a look at the spirits individually, and then maybe come back and take a look at this. But for now, I'll just sort of point out how each one of these spirits contributes, let's say, to this team. So we'll start with Fractured Days. Fractured Days, for the most part, in this team has blank text, which is a little bit of a theme that you'll see continuing here. It's the best spirit in the game, and it's mostly because of the left innate, which is Slip the Flow of Time, and it is the glue that holds this entire team together. It was the glue that held the entire previous iterations of the snake cheese stuff together, so there's nothing new really here at all. What this team does is it kind of has specific build paths for Fractured that are a bit different from ones in the past. I think they're a bit better, in truth, than the ones that I've seen in the past. It's just all a little bit more clean and refined. And again, I'll kind of talk through sort of why that is as we go along here. But basically, you've got Absolute Stasis. This is a skip, and I have never once resolved the text on this card. In all the games that I've played with this team, this is literal blank text. It's 3 elements for 1 energy, and that's all you're doing with this card. You do not want to spend 1 time on this card ever. So that's that. Blur the Arc Ears has some text. It's a perfect element card, and it does some nice things. It can move some Dahan around, and it can potentially later in the game get you some fear by forcing a Rabbit and things like that. But again, it's mostly blank text, to be honest with you. It's again just perfect element, which is really good. Poor time Sideways, completely and utterly blank text. So don't even read it. And then this one as well is also blank text, but it's nice. It's 0, and it's got some nice elements too. So that's all of that. Your cards, again, they don't really matter here. Slip the Flow Time is the only thing for the most part that matters, and we're going to try to optimize for that as often as we can. As you probably know by now, Slip the Flow of Time does slow to fast, and it does repeats, and it does it all in one package, and you want to do this as much as possible. Visions of a Shifting Future is actually really nice in the team as well. It's a nice to have rather than a must have, but it's an extremely good nice to have because it's actually highly powerful as well. I did not appreciate the power of this right innate on Fractured until I started jamming loads of games with this team. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. So that's Fractured here. Serpent is well, why don't we skip ahead first, sorry, to Shifting Memory here. And Shifting Memory is for the most part blank text as well, or at least a bit like Fractured. It's got like 1 or 2 important things, and then after that most of the rest of it just doesn't matter at all. So we will be looking at, of course, the where are we here, the mentor aspect, as I say. Now, what does Mentor do? Mentor is going to be able to give cards into play for other spirits. Particularly here, the second level of this innate here, take a look. Target spirit may play that power card now by paying its cost. So you donate cards into play. And this is really strong. And it kickstarts the original, it kickstarts the combos beyond what those original cheese teams were able to do by quite a bit. So that's really good here. And our entire game is essentially just activating that innate, the second level in particular, putting stuff into play for other spirits and letting them get some extra elements and sort of things like that. So that's basically what Shifting Memory does. If you take a look here, Boon of Ancient Memories, that card is going to go into play on turn 1 for Serpent, which is going to be absolutely critical. That was a big sort of light bulb moment for me when I found this combination. If you look, that's like perfect element for Serpent, and it works really well. You have Elemental Teachings, which is just a highly broken unique power, and we use this every turn. And we love it. It's going to do amazing things for us. And then we play that with Share Secrets of Survival. These are essentially the 2 cards that we play every single turn. Take a look at them there. They're both air and they're both earth. So that's going to be really good for the mentor ability that we looked at. And then all we're going to need essentially is 1 more air element to be able to keep hitting that every single turn. And the final card, the Study the Invader Spheres, is also a moon and an air, which lines up really well with Fractured, and it enables some very nice play patterns with Fractured as well. So they're the kind of the 2 glue pieces, and they sort of sit there. They're essentially just Autobots that sit there doing the same thing every turn, which is to enable what's happening with the other 2 spirits. So let me come back then and talk about Serpent here real quick. Again, everybody's going to be familiar with this spirit. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to activate that left innate every single turn from turn one. So we're going to basically proliferate Serpent, Fractured, and Finder every turn starting on the first turn, every single turn from there on. That is the core of the combo. And then what we have here on the right-hand side is we've got that Serpent Rouses in Anger, which is the old Snake Quake, and you've probably heard it colloquially known as. And this is our win condition, which is sort of some of the the sort of serpent cheese teams in the past lent into this. Some of them didn't. Like I said, a lot of them were kind of just big major sort of slammers, and they sort of went about their business that way. But this team is very much focused around consistency and bringing yourself to a point in the game every time, guaranteed, where you can use your Snake Quake to clear the board. So that is kind of Serpent's role in all of this. They go left innate a bunch, put everything into play for several spirits, and then at the end of the game, you get this kind of almost deterministic win from the Serpent Rouses in Anger. And there's sort of a couple of key cards that are involved in this here. So if you take a look at Absorb Essence, this is the kind of one of the cores of everything that's going on. This is how you absorb the presence of other spirits, and of course you give them any element and an energy, which works really, really well, and we'll see how that sort of plays out. And then the Elemental Aegis, which is actually the glue that holds the whole combo together. This card is completely insane. As your Absorb Essence, you play this loads. You play this 4 times on the first turn. You play it twice more on the second turn, and then you get a bunch of Elemental Aegis on the second turn itself. So this is kind of where this team excels beyond what the old versions of this team can do. This is how you stop the HLC Sweden loss, is of course with Elemental Aegis, but you can play this 3 or even 4 times on the second turn, whereas no previous iteration of this team could do that. They would generally be spending the second turn of the game, with the first and the second, investing in the proliferation combo, and they'd play like maybe 1 or maybe 2 Aegis on the second turn, but that was never going to be enough to stop you losing to Habsburg and Sweden. This team, as I said, can play it 3 or even 4 times on the second turn without sacrificing almost anything from your proliferation combo. And that is the big change. One of the big changes anyway. So kind of that's all of that. Again, we'll see how that plays out. You've also got Gift of Flowing Power and Primordial Deeps. They do some nice things, but they're nowhere near sort of fundamental as the other 2 cards are. And then finally, then, as I say, the sort of new addition to the team, and the thing that changes everything, is how Finder brings a level of consistency to this team that it just didn't quite have before. I mentioned the hyper proliferation. Finder is the best spirit in the game to receive a proliferation, as far as I'm concerned. If you have 1 proliferation at any moment in the game, certainly in the first, let's say, 3, 4, or 5 turns, every presence you place with Finder is crazy strong. Every one. At least the first, whatever, like 8 or something like that. And doing this and proliferating this spirit every turn, starting on turn 1, is just crazy bananas strong. It's got 6 uniques, and we won't talk through them because they're not hugely important in terms of the specifics of the cards. They're all amazing. Finder's uniques are bonkers, and probably most people will know that by now. We've got lots of elements. We activate the left innate here. We max this out as many times as possible in the game, starting on turn 2. So we just have huge amounts of control. And again, this is what brings the level of consistency to this team that the other cheese teams before now just did not have. You have maximum control over everything that goes on a 4 spirit board. And the other key thing that Finder brings is the Open the Ways ability. 2 of your lands may be adjacent. Huge, because what that does is it gives you extra lands for the Elemental Aegis, because the Elemental Aegis, of course, is in each adjacent land ability. So that now adds a land for every use of Elemental Aegis. You get 1 extra land solved, and that is massive. And the other thing that this the Open the Ways does is when you're doing the Snake Quake, you get to do an extra land with the Snake Quake. So usually when you do a snake quake, let me come back here because I'm more or less finished with all of that. Usually when you do a snake quake, you've got presents everywhere and you kind of activate the thing and you're sort of pinging lands all over the place. What Finder does, and this sort of inevitability that this spirit brings, is when you get towards the end of the game, instead of putting stuff everywhere, you consolidate all of the presence of Serpent into one land. Not always, but one of the key ways to do it is you put like 10, 11, 12, 13 presents of Serpent into a single land, and then you bring the invaders, of course, all towards that land, and you can deal insane amounts of damage. You deal 13 in this land, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 adjacent lands. Plus, you make another one with Finder's extra adjacency. That's 9. Plus, the original land is 10. Multiplied by 13. Every one of your Serpent Rouses and Anger, your Snake Quake, can do 130 damage. And you've taken all the invaders and put them all in and around that. So this inevitability that I talked about, this kind of deterministic sort of nature of the win, that's how it works, because you bring everything in at the end of the game. End of the game, it's like turn 6, turn 5, 6, 7, those kind of 3 turns. So anyway, I've kind of described, generally speaking, how all of this is going to work, but I do want to, as I say, step through this a little bit. Now again, I don't want to make this a very long video. If I start putting invaders on the board and planning kind of moving them with Finder and stuff, it'll all just get too muddy, it'll get too long, and it'll get too boring. So I'm not going to do any of that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little sort of run through. I have a basic invader deck set up over here, and I'm just going to flip over invader cards just to give you an idea of how the layout on the board is working and some of the kind of presence interactions, because presence is actually a really big part of this this team here. So let me get a little sip of water before we start this. This team, it's funny, it's quite mundane. I'll be honest, it's a bit boring. It's very solitaire kind of templated play. It's like 90% boring templated play and like 10% highly interesting puzzle, where Finder is where all of the interest comes basically in this team. So you've got this really intricate presence movement kind of puzzle going on, that you have to get your presence all around the board, and you're working with very, very little presence as well. Because you're doing absorb essence so many times, you actually have very few presence pieces on the board. So again, I'm going to show a little bit of that as we go along here and kind of show you sort of some of the examples of what that looks like. I put some Dahan now because I wanted something else on the board. So I'll show you kind of as we're doing the defense with the elemental aegis, what we'd be doing with the Dahan to try to get them into place to have some counter attacks to kind of keep some of the plastic down. Which, to be honest with you, in some matchups doesn't matter at all, because you can just defend for so much that the plastic doesn't matter. But when you talk about England, when you talk about France and a little bit HME as well, you don't want to just let plastic build up forever, because you've got loss conditions to worry about. So it is actually quite nice to be able to move your Dahan and kind of get some amount of counter attacks as well, which is, again, another part that Finder has to play a really strong, important part in this team as well. So anyway, I've waffled enough. What are we now? We're 29, 30 minutes in. So I'll maybe spend about 10 minutes here just quickly going through a few turns just to kind of show you what all of this looks like. So we'll flip this over here. I do have some kind of images on my screen to kind of guide me, and some photos I took on a previous game. Oh, actually, I should be quite clear here in what I'm about to do. I haven't said it yet. I'm going to play this with uniques and innates only, and show you what that looks like, because this team can beat 6/6s without ever drafting a card, which is completely insane. You've probably seen over here, actually, I have Days That Never Were face down over in the corner. And that's another thing I think that this team just brings beyond what the old cheese teams were able to do. You don't need to draft a single card. You can beat, in my opinion, I haven't done this yet, but I'm quite certain about this statement. You can beat every 6/6 combo in the game that doesn't contain England at 100% consistency without ever drafting a card, just with your uniques and your innates. You can beat every 6/6 at 100% consistency, in my mind, for sure. I'm sure of it. but the England ones you will need to draft because you need some ways to clear plastic. So every England combo, you allow yourself a draft. Be fair to yourself. The other ones, you don't need it. Just play with your uniques. So that's what I'm going to show you. I'm not going to draft cards because, again, that kind of complicates matters. I'm going to show you the build of uniques only. The build here is slightly different. There's a kind of a templated build, which I'll go through. If you were drafting cards, of course, you could optimize this. So this is a kind of a strictly worse way to play this team than if you were drafting cards, of course. But it's nice to know that this can do this. And if you're going to practice this, at home and stuff like that, and you want to, kind of take on and try the team, this is a good place to start because you can follow through turn by turn what I'm going to show you. And then sort of after you've done that once or twice and you're familiar with the sort of patterns, then you can start drafting cards and then maybe adapt the patterns a little bit depending on what you draft. So anyway, again, I'm waffling. Let me go and through and start to look at what this looks like. So we flipped over mountains. Again, I'm not placing invaders here, but the first thing that we do when we flip over mountains is we're going to look at the board. We're going to think to ourselves, where am I going to defend with Serpent next turn? Now, again, very quick note on the board here too. This is a kind of a balanced layout that I found. It's the most balanced layout for this team that I could find in all 6 boards because you have the minimum possible adjacencies of terrains to kind of make elemental ages balanced. Some configurations of boards you can have like 5 of a certain terrain sort of adjacent around one land, and then Aegis would solve like 5 lands with one action and stuff like that. So here you can see, for example, we have this land here that is adjacent to 1, 2, 3 mountains, and over here, again, we've got this one that's adjacent to 1, 2, 3 mountains. But kind of other than that, we don't have loads of crazy, adjacencies here. And it's the same for the other terrain. So I won't sort of labor that point, but I just wanted to point that out that we've got a balance across all of the terrains. And when I look at this on turn 1, first thing I do here is I go, okay, where am I going to defend next turn? I can defend there. I can defend there. Either of those 2 options gives me 3 defends per single action. Of course, after that, I can come over here and I can defend there. That'll give me 2. I can do, well, no, that one is kind of on its own, so we obviously won't be defending that. I can come up there and that'll give me 2 as well, and sort of things like that. Now, if I'm playing, for example, Sweden-Habsburg, the combo that we talked about before, I may well go, I'll defend there, that one, and maybe this inland land here, which I know is going to be ravaging for like 15 or something, I can now pick off that twice. So you start to think about things like that. But for now, I'll just show you roughly. I might want to go here. Let's say maybe I go defend there. That's 1, 2, 3. And then maybe what I'll do is I'll go up there and I'll defend that one next turn. They can be my maybe 2 defends next turn. And then we'll maybe find ways to kind of push some stuff maybe with Finder. That kind of idea. So I'll go about doing this and I will look at Serpent first. I'll go Serpent's going to place a presence and it's going to gain energy. That's the other thing I'll do here just to kind of show you how the energy stuff is working as well. Let me just get myself set up here. That's going to be a total of 5 energy. We have 1 card play on the first turn, which is going to be Absorb Essence. The rest goes in our hand. We get 1. We get 5, as I say, and that is going to be that. We're going to go from the top track, and I can go range 3 down into that land. Look, that is a blighted land. Technically, I couldn't grow into that land right now, but I'm going to be able to proliferate. So what I could do, for example, is I could do into that land, and then I'll proliferate into that land, just to kind of show you. Again, I'm not too worried about what the board looks like. I'm more interested in the operations here. Now, Finder is going to go G3. It's going to go bottom, 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 and it is going to take 3 time. It's going to generate 1 energy. And it's going to play, I'll just look at my notes here to make sure I'm going right. Keep me on the right track. It's going to play Blur and the pass returns again. 1 energy. And then over here with Finder is going to do a kind of a standard Circuitous and Paths Tied by Nature opening with the G2, but it's going bottom track. And this is very different. So a lot of people would say Finder's optimal path is a kind of a top kind of thing. This is a bottom type of a thing. So you'll see this is quite different. And it's built around getting as many actions and innates and all that as possible. So, I'm very much locked in on this build. So that's going to be fine. I'm going to come back to the Finder presence in a moment. Over here, Shifting Memory of Ages is going to go on the first turn. They get a draft, and that's like the last time they get to do this. So they're going to go gain a power, a minor power. I'm just going to take 2 minors and put them face down in my hand here. That's how I obviously mentor drafts. And then I'm going from bottom track, and I'm going to play 2 card plays. And as I say, I'm going to play the Teachings and the Share Secrets of Survival. And then those other cards are going to go in my hand. Mentor's hand is off to the right-hand side here. I know it's behind my my face here. I can obviously kind of delete that and come back here, and you can see it here. But that just exited me out of my full screen over here, which is kind of annoying. So let's go back to that. Let's come over here and bring myself back and hope this all works well. There I am. Okay, am I still recording? I am. I didn't stop myself or any of that kind of nonsense. So, okay, let's go along here. So I've no energy over here. I've no energy here with Finder. This layout that I did with these spirits gives me access to every terrain type on the first turn, which is a nice way to set up. You know, so in here, for example, I can go range 1 into that land, and that gives me access to solve this land. Again, I'm not placing the invaders. I'm just going to give you a rough idea what it would look like. So I can play those 2. I play those 2, play this 1. Okay, now let's have a look and start this train rolling. Oh yeah, sorry. So with Fractured as well, the other thing that we like to do here is think about where we're placing our presence from a movement perspective as well. So let me think about this now. I'll show you a couple of the little tricks that are going through my mind already that we will be thinking about here. I'm going to solve this fast with the left innate of Finder. I would like to be able to push my presence out of this land into this land, because that is going to give me access to open the ways for the elemental Aegis next turn. So I want to be in the lands where Serpent is playing Aegis. Every turn you want to be thinking about doing that. So here's a way for me to do that quite nicely. So I have a way now where I can go Fractured G3, and I'll jump across and go into the land with Finder. That's going to give me access to the push with the push half, and it's going to work really well here. So every turn you want to be thinking about this kind of pattern and how do I pair up my presence. Pairing up your presence with this team is really strong for multiple reasons. This is one of the main reasons, because your push half and your kind of Finder and 8s work better when you have multiple presence in them. And then when you get later in the game, as you get to this point, what they talked about, we're bringing all your presence back together with Serpent. That's much easier to do when you have lands with a bunch of presence in them. If you have a land with like 2 Serpent presence and 3 random mentor presence, you can just push half and get your Serpent presence out of there easily without having to dedicate like, you know, in unique powers or something to do it. So that's kind of something to look out for there. So we did that there. We have another way to do this on the first turn. Sometimes you'll find that with your range 2 from memory, you might jump across like, I don't know, 1-2 or something over there. And then maybe, or, you know, for example here, 1-2, I might go into that land with Finder and stuff like that. So that's another way to do that I sometimes find myself doing, is trying to pair up my memory presence with my my Finder presence. But in this case, I don't have to. That's fine. Memory here, you probably want to look for another spot quite central. This is a really good spot over here for the Share Secrets of Survival that I talked about. So all you're going to do with Mentor is sit here donating cards and moving like 2 to hand every turn, which is actually really good. To get them into position for the hand counter attacks here. So I think in this case here, I might just move my presence over 1-2, for example, into that land there. There's some Dahan around here that can work quite well. So we'll do that without thinking too much about it. And other than that, then I think we've done more or less everything that we need to here. From a kind of a presence placements perspective, we'll go quite quickly through this and show you now the way all of these operations work. So let me grab my my elements here. So I took a Sun element with Fractured when I hit my G3. And I obviously forgot to give myself my starting elements with Shifting Memory. Those are going to be pretty important here. Let's take those. I'll put my my elements over there for just a moment. So now, Fractured, we need a couple of elements to be able to hit the slip the flow at times. So the first thing that we do here is we absorb essence from Serpent. We absorb Fractured once. Let's go down there and put that one down there. Fractured is going to get an energy, and it's going to get an Annie, and the Annie is going to be an air. Now we have the second and third level of the slip the flow of time. So now I can activate slip once. So let me get a little dice offside here. I like to just track this and kind of remember how many times I've used this. So the first slip is going straight to Serpent. Serpent is going to play Absorb Essence again. Now, I'm not going to do the energy thing on Absorb yet. I'm going to do that all at once at the end, so I'll shortcut that a little bit just to save some time. So first, we're going to Absorb Essence, and we're going to absorb, we're going to slip, we're going to pick up the Absorb, we're going to play it again. Then we're going to absorb Fractured again. Fracture is going to get another energy, and it's going to get a moon. It doesn't need the moon for the slow to fast this turn, but it's very nice to have for the right innate, and it actually just makes sense to absorb Fractured again here anyway for the whole engine across all of the turns. It just makes sense to do it this way. So we will do it this way. It also gives, of course, Fractured a proliferation this turn, which again is part of the engine. So that's fine. We now have two Fractured presents. We've played Absorb twice. We've used Slip once. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go slip again. So we'll go up to 2. We'll put one of our presents back here to pay for the second slip. That's going to slip Finder, and Finder's present is going to come down here. And then finally, we're going to slip one more time up to 3. We're going to put the 2 presents back here, and then we're going to absorb Finder again. And Finder is going to go here. So now both of those things have taken 2 presents. They have 2 energy each, and Finder's 2 elements here can be a moon and a sun, which is going to give us 2 moon, 2 sun, and 2 air, and it's going to give us the level 1 and the level 2 of the left innate, which is all good. So again, over here, we've got, let's say, depending on which adversary we were playing against, let's say we maybe have 3 or two invaders in this land. Doesn't really matter. For the purposes of here, let's say I'm solving this land this turn with this particular action, right? So I would go, for example, push the 2 invaders somewhere, and now I get to do the push my presence situation here. So I get to push the Finder presence in there with the push half, and then, you know, push again 1 invader out, something like that. So I go in there with Finder. I'm also going to get a 1 isolate this turn, and again, we're not going to get into the isolates here. They're really, really strong, and depending on which adversary combo you play against, they can do all sorts of crazy things. I mentioned before, I think the England and Habsburg combination in particular isolates from Finder, shores up a huge amount of your problems in that matchup as well. So that's fine too. So we've done that. We've done our isolates. All that's fine. In this case, then, the other thing that we're going to do over here is with Mentor, we're going to donate or dedicate one of our air elements. That's just a little offside there. We'll do the air element for the Mentor innate. That's going to give us the second level of that, which puts Boon of Ancient Memories into play for Serpent. I'll pay the 1 here, and then I'll fix my Absorb Essence thing in a second. And that's fine. Now, absorb. Here's how the maths works. Obviously, I had to go pick it up, pay 2, gain 3, pay 2, gain 3, all that. I'm just shortcutting all of that to say, absorb, I paid it once already, which is the 2 that I paid at the start. Excuse me. I'm going to have to pay the cost 3 more times, so it's going to cost me 6, and I'm going to gain 12 energy total, because this card obviously gains 3 energy each time. I'm playing it 4 times, so it's gain 12, pay 6. And I can simply do that by doing this, gain 6, and then pay 6. So that's the 12 total that was gained, but I'm giving obviously 6 of it away. So that's kind of how all that works. That's fine. Now, the Boon of Ancient Memories is in play. These aren't in play. They're in my hand. Give me these. Now, if you take a look here, what we now have access to, sorry, not yet, we have now Elemental Teachings. Prepare 1 marker. Let me just look at what my markers need to be here when I'm doing this. To be sure, I think do I take 2? I take 2 plant. Sorry, no. When I gave away the Boon of Ancient Memories, sorry, I took 2 plant. 1 plant because it matches, and then another plant because I can pick whichever one I want. So I took 2 plant off this. Now I'm going to go Teachings. I'll give myself back an air so that I can use my innate again next turn. And then I'm going to donate a plant and an earth to Serpent. And then I'm left with those 3 elements there with memory. Over here, Serpent gets access to these 2 elements. And now what we have here is we have fire, fire, we have water, water, we have 3 earth, and we have 2 plants. So now we get to unlock this innate on the first turn. We obviously do this slow after the invaders do all their things. That's all fine. Again, we're not doing it. And then we would do that. So that's going to give us the thing. That's giving us the proliferation. So we'll get 1 energy, 1 energy, 1 energy, and then all 3 of us get to go 1, 2, 3. Finder's going bottom. Serpent is of course going bottom, and then Serpent can go here. That's where they do the move into there. Fractured can go whatever. They can make a sacred side. It's not going to matter that much. Maybe we'll go in there as well. One thing to note here as well that's quite interesting too. We've got Circuitous Wending Journey. We have Paths Tied by Nature, and we've got a Proliferate at range 1. So again, depending on how things look here in this particular game, we might want to have done one thing or another. Maybe we would have placed our presence in there. And if this was a massive land, for example, we might have gone push half with the Circuitous and Wending Journey. In this case, it's not really going to be the case here. We probably wouldn't have bothered doing any of that because this will be defended, so that's fine. But what we might do is, for example, I don't know, we could use Circuitous. If we weren't next to that land and we were 2 away, we might have gone Circuitous and push our presence again, this sort of stuff. So again, you're always thinking about where your presence are, as well as sort of the moving the invaders with the Circuitous here. But let's just say, for argument's sake, I just move myself a little bit across the island here. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. I don't want to waffle and think too much about the board itself. So we Circuitous at this point, and maybe we have to do an explore, don't we? So let me do that, and then we'll see which actual terrain came up, and that'll help our discussion a little bit. So let's say, for example, here, the wetlands came up. That was the terrain explored for the turn. I start to think again about where I'm going to want to defend in the future. So we want to defend that land up there. That gives us access to 3, obviously. There's no other 3s available here. But, we might, for example, defend that one as well with Serpent. So maybe what I want to do is I go range 1, go in there off the Proliferate, and then maybe I go Circuitous and I empty that land or something. If it explored, I just empty that out, for example. And then if I want to, I can Circuitous my presence again up that way if I'd like. To make my way up towards trying to solve this land. So these are again the sort of movement patterns that you want to think about. And then maybe what we might do is we might go Paths Tied by Nature, range 1. I might empty this with Paths Tied, because maybe there were 2 what do you call it's in there, and we push them to range 2, 1, 2, and then this now becomes a land that we can defend with the with this. So again, without seeing the invaders on the board, it's hard to kind of, dedicate and show you exactly how those things are all moving. But hopefully that's starting to make sense without me clogging up too much time with it. So that's all fine. The Share Secrets of Survival, maybe what we would have done in this case is we'd go, those 2, Dahan want to go in there because we want to get some counterattacks in that land, for example, and that will be all fine. The Boon of Ancient Memories at the end of this turn is going to target Shifting Memory. And again, because we're playing uniques only, I'm just going to give them 2 more minor powers into their hand. Play them face down, we don't care. The Blur, we never used it. And again, what we would have done with Blur is we're just looking for a spot on the board where we can optimize for some counterattacks. We could force something to ravage this turn, but likely what we end up doing is we just find a land that didn't have an invader in it. For example, maybe there before we sacrificed our presence, maybe what we would have done is put another to the hand in that land, and then push the 2 of these into here, get them ready for a counterattack next turn as well. That's all well and good. Now, the last thing that we would do here is, of course, we have the Serpent Rouses in Anger, the first level. It'll ping off a couple of little bits and pieces of stuff to keep some lands a little bit clean. We're not too worried about bits and pieces here, but it's fine. We'll generate some fear as well here. And another thing to note as well about this team, it's very fear light. It doesn't generate much fear. So, you know, again, it's okay. We don't have to care about it. We have that inevitability with the board and the snake rake, so that's all not really a problem. I'll just show you here the visions of the shifting future here. Now, a key part of how this team works, and I realize I'm now 50 minutes. I cannot make a short video. Hopefully you're still with me and kind of following what's going on. The right and eight here is a key part of how all of this works. We do not want to ever flip the blight card, and we won't. We're basically looking at an event here, and unless it's a complete disaster, we'll be keeping it on top because we just play around any of the negative abilities quite easily. You know, plus damage and all those kind of things can be quite easily played around with this team. So unless this is a disaster, we'll keep it on top. So promising farmland, when exploring, once per board, place a town instead of an explorer. Meaningless. It doesn't mean anything at all. We can beat that absolutely easily. So there's no way, like even with lost condition stuff for France and all the rest of it, it's very unlikely for that to matter that much. So we'll happily take that. It gives us a bit of a, you know, defend and things like that. So what we do here is we go, if this isn't a catastrophe, we'll keep it. And we will shuffle the top two, and it's like whatever. I now I'm 50% to know exactly what that card is next turn. If it's a bad effect, we'll probably play around it anyway. If it's not too bad like that, we just kind of just don't care. And then if we miss on the next turn, we'll have full knowledge the following turn. So you probably know how all that works by now. So let's get rid of all these elements here and try to move a little bit quicker now as we're going along. As I say, we sort of bank a bunch of energy here with Serpent, which gets us going very well. That's all nice. Get rid of those. Get rid of the two of those and get rid of the two of those. All good. Now, let's go back. Shifting memory now goes into its loop. It's going to reclaim two. It's going to play the same two cards. It's going to go top this time. I'm not even going to gain energy in this game because it doesn't use it. So essentially just note here that shifting memory is now going to gain a bunch of energy. It's placing that at range 0, picking back up the two of these and playing them again. And I'm just going to do this every turn from now on. You'll have a bunch of energy in the bank. A lot of the other cheese teams would have shifting memory, playing majors and doing all this kind of stuff. No, it doesn't do any of it. It literally sits here and plays these two cards, and that's all it needs to do. And what you can do is with your energy, you can pay for choice events if they come up and you need to pay for them. You have a bunch of energy spare, so that's all fine as well. Now, Finder, what they do is they're now going to go to the node on the bottom track, and they can take a G4 for some energy, which is quite nice. So here we can go 1, 2 off the G4. Put us up to 5 energy, and this is going to give us range to anywhere on the entire board, which is really, really nice. So for example, I can go all the way down into this land if I'd like, and I can defend this with the innate. What I could have done, for example, on the other previous turn as well, is I could have found my way. So what land is at risk here? Actually, there isn't really any. There was this one that wasn't getting solved. Other than that, we have those two solved up there from thing. We had this one solved, this one. So now we could just jump across. And this G4 gives us massive protection for basically anywhere on the board. This one here, we didn't necessarily do anything with, but we'll maybe find something to do with it this turn, for example, if it was a big risk of a land. So let's go ahead and look then at what we do here. So Serpent actually has 2 different ways it can play the second turn, and it kind of depends on how badly you need to Aegis or not. If this isn't like Habsburg, Sweden, where your Aegis is massively stretched, what you can do here is you can go add a presence, and you can gain energy again, and don't pick up any cards, and you can play Gift of Flowing Power and Elemental Aegis, and then the first slip will allow you to pick up the absorb and play it. Now, I'm not even going to go through that now. I'll just show you the simpler way, which is just to reclaim. So I'll gain 1 more energy here. I'll place a presence off not the top, off the bottom. And then I'll pick back up both of these cards. And then now I have 2 card plays. So I will play Absorb Essence and Flowing Power. Not Flowing Power, Absorb Essence and Elemental Aegis, and we'll end up getting to play Flowing Power, I'm pretty sure, with this setup here, but it just means doing it this way, you get 1 extra Aegis instead of the other way around. It's something like that. So again, I won't belay sort of the exact minor details here. Play through and kind of figure it out as you go. But this is the sort of simplest way to show how it works. Over here with Finder, we're going to G3 again, which is going to be bottom, bottom, bottom again. 2 card plays again. We'll generate 1 more energy. And this time we will play these 2 cards, the Poor Time Sideways and the Absolute Stasis. Sorry, while I'm doing these as well, of course, G3 lets you pick up cards out of your thing. Again, if you've hit a card in your Days That Never Were that works well with your elements, you can find yourself in better spots here, but I'm going to ignore them. I'm just treating these as face-down cards that don't have any elements or text. They're just in my hand, but I'm not using them. And we'll get to move our presence again here. Now, key thing to note here with moving our presence with Fractured is it pairs really, really well with Traveler's Boon, which is a card we'll be playing this turn. So again, we talk about our presence movement here. Now I've got a range to range 4 on the board from anywhere. I can basically go into any land on the board with this essentially because we've got Open the Ways as well. And I'm going to look for a place where Traveler's Boon could do some work. We talked before, maybe that land was a problem. Maybe I just jump in there and I pull a city out, for example, with Traveler's Boon, something like that. Or maybe I go across and I go, hey, you know what? What about up there? I'll jump up there and then I'll Traveler's Boon that 1 invader away and then it won't build. All of this kind of stuff. So just looking now at my growth so that I get it right here on turn 2. Yeah, we want to go, let's say, Traveler's Boon, Offer Passage, and Ways Ashore and Heartland. That's going to cost us 2. Let's say we've got 3 card plays because we've unlocked bottom, bottom down here. Play 3 card plays there. 8 from the Spirit Speakers is in our hand. The 2 cards from what do you call it, Serpent, are going to be 1 and 2. Over here, we'll pay for all of this stuff as well. Now, we took a Sun on this side of the thing. So now we're short a Sun and a Moon in this case to be able to activate Slip the Flow of Time. So what we will do here is we will, let me just again go to my, we're going to place our presence here, sorry, with Snake. We talked before about that's one of the lands we want to get into is Snake. That's another one of the lands we want to get into with Snake. Move presence here would have allowed us to do, for example, move. And then maybe we want to think, oh, hey, you know what? Maybe next turn we might want to defend that. Again, I'm just kind of placing stuff around the place. If you get to a point where you're not sure, already, it's only turn 2 of the game, and in my mind, I'll already be thinking about what is my final destination for the nuke land, for the Snakequake land. So if you're starting to get into a spot where, hey, you know what, I'm not sure here, I'm going to pick a land that has the best adjacencies, i.e. that land there, and I'm already going to start to pull my presence in there to make it easier once I start to get later in the game. So I think I'll just do that here. Why not? We'll put that presence in there for that purpose. Actually, I just moved that one out of there, didn't I? So that was already in there. I'm going to put the other one in there. All right. So that's fine. Now, stasis over here. Sorry, not stasis. The slip here is Absorb. Again, another 1 for Fractured. You know what? I'm going to stop giving it energy at this point. Trust me, none of us are going to have energy problems. So I'm just going to shortcut the energy stuff from now on because it'll just speed the video up. So we would give Fractured, in this case, we give them a Sun. We will absorb 1 of Fractured's presence, for example. Again, the ordering here, we would probably Traveler's Boon first, all that sort of stuff. But we'll take 1 of Fractured's presence. That now gives Fractured 1, 2, 3. We're short a Moon. How do we get the... Oh, yeah. The way we do this is, in this case, we would... Sorry, that air was gone from last time. We're going to, again, take 1 of our airs, dedicate it to Mentor, and now we're going to put Study the Invader's Fears into play on Fractured side. And this is the kind of core 2 turns of combo. First turn, we put the card for Serpent. Second turn, we do it for Fractured. So we always have access to this. There are no drafts required. Now Fractured has access to levels 2 and 3 of the innate. We don't need the fast proliferate here. We'll get that later as the game goes, but for now the slow is fine. So now again we've got our slip and we're going to start using it. So we took 1 of Fractured's presence. Now we're going to go slip. We'll do it once. Pick back up the absorb. Play it again. Again, I'm not going to spend the energy here. Just assume we'll always have enough energy. So we play the absorb over here. Now we're going to give an element to Finder. They're going to take I believe a water is what they need here. Yep. Then, so that's now one slip done. We've now played absorb twice on this turn. We obviously have to take one of Finder's presence. Let's say we just take that one for argument's sake here. We put that there. Then we would have Aegis for 8 now. So we've 6 absorb presence plus the 2. So Aegis is now on for 8. So we can go Aegis once. Do it in here. That's our 3 mountains over there. And we open the ways and we also defend this one. That's that done. That's nice. That's Aegis once. We're likely going to need Aegis again. We've done one slip. Let's do another slip. Second slip. Put one of these up here. We pick up the Aegis. We play it again. We maybe Aegis up into that land this time. 1, 2. Now, depending on how the board went, if stuff looked really bad, I might have made my way over there with Finder. And maybe what I would have done is gotten a presence in that land and maybe also in, whatever. This land over here. A lot of times you'll be doing 2 open the ways to kind of open the whole map so you can give yourself access to a bunch of lands at once. And that, again, as I talked about, is a really important part of how Finder functions in this team. So that's fine. We've done Aegis a second time. And then now what we can do is for our third slip, we go back here, 1, 2, 3. And again, we're probably going to Aegis a third time. That's kind of what the flexibility that we have with this team here. But what I might also do is I might go Gift of Flowing Power. How was this? Yeah. Because what we want to do is we want the Flowing Power, the aid into play. I'm just trying to remember how you can get up to 4 Aegis on the second turn, but I think you have to take less absorb. Yeah, so we did an absorb on this turn on Finder. I think if we don't do that, we don't give Finder the water. Is that how it works? Yeah, I think you can do it without that, but yeah, I don't want to get caught up in every single nitty gritty detail here. I'm showing you the basic way to do this, but as I said, you can have 2, 3, 4 Aegises this turn if you want to cover more of the board, albeit with a little bit less of the presence on the absorb stuff. So anyway, what we would do here is on our third slip, we play Gift of Flowing Power, we put it into play, and we they're in our hand, and then we put the aid from the Spirit Speakers out with Finder. That now gives us access to a full Finder maxed left and 8. We've got the 2 moon, the 2 sun, 4 air, and as I said, wherever this is, this water element. And again, what I might have done in this case is I could have gone maybe pick up. Oh no, yeah, there's no more water cards there. I was going to say we could maybe do like a fractured, pick up one of those cards, play it. There's all sorts of configurations that you can do here. And this, as I say, is the kind of basic one. And now what we have is, as I said, we have a Traveler's Boon to kind of solve a particular land. And we have Offer Passage, which can do stuff like, hey, you know what, let's grab, I don't know, whatever, not those 2, but like these 2 would go from here to anywhere else. Yeah, well, look, I'm not going to move to the hand, but again, Offer Passage now lets us start doing things like gathering up the hand, pairing them into groups of 4, things like that. Not pairing, but you get the idea. This sort of pattern here works really well on this board, or in the team in general, because then we can start using things like aid from the Spirit Speakers, of course, to move 4 invaders, all this kind of stuff. If we find things like Vigor the Breaking Dawn, etc., we can start optimizing for all that kind of stuff. So we're looking to get our the hand grouped up as much as possible. Of course, over here with Shifting Memory, they have a gather 2 as well. So they might go, hey, gather the 2 of them, put them in there, for example, this kind of thing. So that's fine. We have the aid from the spirit speakers itself. Maybe that looks in there and goes, hey, take an invader out of there to stop that building, or whatever it may be. Or maybe you just go, you know what, get the two of them, put them in there and kill some more plastic. Whatever, right? So, running out of breath here because I'm trying to get through as much as I can. I didn't think this was going to take this long, but, you know, it is what it is. Studying the Vader spheres, of course, that can give us access to the top of the deck, and we know what's coming as far as sort of fear goes, but this team does not need to care about the fear deck at all. You can ignore it. It doesn't exist, to be honest, for the purposes of this video as well as most of your games. And now the other thing that we do here, of course, with Elemental Teachings, when we gave away the to study the invaders' fears over there, what I would have taken is I would have taken an air, and I guess I would have taken a let's say an earth, and then when I teachings this turn, I can go generate a plant and give a plant and an earth over here. I'm actually giving, plant and an earth, for example, over there. And now, when we get to the slow phase, which I think we're more or less ready to go and do that, we do all our ravages, we do all our builds, that's all fine. And then we explore and we go sands. Now then, in the slow phase here, when we do the serpent thing, we would do all gain the energy. We would all gain a proliferation again. Our Annie now comes online, and it can be I think a plant here. And that's now going to give us the 3 levels of the innate. Remember, we're only on turn 2 here still, so that's going to give us 3 levels. Everyone get a major. Well, not everyone. These 3 spirits will get a major, so that's fine. And then oh yeah, that was it, wasn't it? No, I lied. That wasn't it. I was about to say we might want to fast air on this turn, but actually no, nonsense. Forget what I said. So here we're going to go at range 1, I don't know, in there maybe to unlock some of that stuff next turn, that kind of thing. Oh, firing my presence on the floor. I'm having an absolute mare, folks. I'm having an absolute mare. I'm not even drinking. Okay, so range 1 again, whatever, it doesn't matter, we'll put you in there. And then for Serpent in this case, range 1 in there because we know we want to defend that land that next turn. That's all well and good. We throw away our stuff, we finish the turn, we do a bit of right-inating over there with Serpent, but all of that's fine. Again, we get some ways ashore in Heartland. We'll solve some stuff, we'll move some stuff from somewhere. We don't really care. I've given you the general gist now of how all the board works with the Dahan and everything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to go quite quickly through the next couple of turns of stuff just to show you how we ramp up and then how we get everything back together and kind of end the game. So I'll try to do this as quickly as I possibly can without too much waffling. So they're gone. Over there. These are all gone. Finder. 3, 4. As I say, I'm ignoring energy from now on. We'll have to pay for the Serpent Rouses and Anger later on, but believe me, we'll be able to pay for it. We can pay for it basically every turn. So none of that's going to matter either. All of this is gone with Fracture. So Fracture is going to be tapped out. Everyone's going to be tapped out. So Reclaim. We go back here, we place another presence. We're going to end up with triple stacks here now, unless we do some Findery movie stuff, so that's all fine as well. Finder's now going to go Reclaim. They're going to pick up some cards here, and again, if I'm playing for real, I might look for a major. Otherwise, I'm just going to take 1 card and add it to my hand here. And it should be noted as well, there's a couple of events in there that do things like force you to sacrifice, like pitch cards out of your hand. You have extra cards. You have loads of energy. You've got almost everything you need to cover things like the choice events, the stuff like Numinous Crisis. We do not want to sacrifice presence at any point in this game with this team. So with something like Numinous Crisis, we can either pay for it with energy or with throwing cards away, depending on which spirit and which time. But we're fine with that event. That one doesn't get us at all, which is quite nice. So anyway, what we do here is we reclaim, we gain a power card, and then because we've unlocked our move 1, we now get to move 1 of our presence to anywhere on the whole board because we've moved 1 and we've ignored range. So in this case, I don't know, maybe I jump my presence up there into that land with the Open the Ways. I now have 1 land and 2 land covered with Open the Ways. which could be good. So all of those cards are back in my hand. Again, we're doing the same thing with Serpent here. We're going to go add a land and reclaim. So these go back in our hand. We move a presence somewhere for the purposes of this. I don't know. Where would we move one? We might move one to, oh yeah, sands. We need to think about sands, don't we? Where is this a land where 3 sands can be defended? That one, but I can probably just move that one there next turn. So that's fine. I don't really want to move out of there. So I don't know. We'll move up there. That's okay. They're back in our hand. And then, of course, with Fractured, they also get to reclaim. Put their 5 cards back in their hand. We'll get 2 time this turn. So we're only going to have 2 slips this turn, but that's also fine. Let me have a look here. Turn 3 growth. What does it look like? I play Blur and this thing. Pass returns again. Serpent is going to do Ye Old Faithful, Absorb, and Aegis. Finder has 3 plays. They're going to, if I look at that, they're going to play Aid, Paths, and Circuitous and Wending Journey. Why are they going to do that? I think maybe this turn I give the elements to Finder. Is that what I do here? Can't even. Oh, no, maybe I just give up on the max left and 8 on this particular turn. I think that's maybe what I did in this case. What you could do is you could play some cards here and play maybe the 2 water cards and then get an absorb for your final water here if you want to unlock, for example, the full innate this turn. And you can actually just reclaim loop from this point with Finder if you want. Or in this case, what I could do is give up on the left innate ones so they get an extra G4 or something like that next turn, and then max the 8 again next turn, that kind of thing. So this is what I have in my picture, so I'll just do it. I've got that one over there with my mentor, and then I think I needed to place a presence, didn't I? I don't think I did that yet, so we'll place a presence into there. Why not? Okay, here we need to now go. How did I do this? So I obviously have the 2 air, so I've got my air coverage. I need a absorb on Fractured to give them a sun, and that's it. We're not going for the fast left innate yet. I think from next turn we go for that then. So that's fine. That's 1 absorb done. Over here, shifting memory. Now, because I'm doing the innates and uniques only version of this, I'm now not going to put cards into play anymore, which of course slows and limits the team down, but just for the purposes of this, I'm just going to show you. So from now on, when I'm giving away one of these minor powers, I always have choices of which elements that I'm looking for in this case here. So I'll always have the coverage. Again, I'm not going to show them face up. I'm just going to go, hey, you know what? Give away a card to Serpent so it has an extra card to throw away from its hand here. I'll take from that like what did I have there? Where am I? I took, these 2 things, an earth and a plant, for example, and I'll have one of those of the 4 cards in my hand. I think that's just mathematically guaranteed. So that's that. And then when I give those away, I'll go teachings, and I'm giving earth. And again, also I can just take my one that I'm missing from there if I need to. So all of this is all also just guaranteed stuff that I'm showing you. That's why I'm skipping it so quickly. So we go teachings, those 2 into play. Is that what I have there? I think it is. Yep. These 3 are with Finder. Again, we move some to hand, whatever, that's fine. Maybe we pull those 2 back out of there. That kind of gist of the story. 8 from the Spirit Speakers, blah, blah, blah. All of that. And then anything else interesting to show? Again, I can blur here, and this is now where we're starting to get into the situation where maybe you want to blur a land to force a ravage. I don't know, maybe like, for example, in there might have been a couple of invaders left there, or maybe we push a few in, then we force the ravage in there because I'm defending maybe this land and that one just happens to be adjacent. Ravage in there, kill a bunch of plastic, and then push 2 things in there. So the blur can do some work in that sense. So again, that's all fine as well. So we do all of that, and we take 2 2 and 8s this time, and our 2 slips, should I say, which is going to be cost 0 and cost 1. I guess we just do ages 3 times. I think that's what we're looking at here. If we look at the board, we probably just take 3 ages and just keep defending the island for as much as we can. So all of that's fine. I think we're finished the turn. No, so we would have done our proliferation, of course, here. And our proliferation is going to go top, bottom, bottom. Again, here we would go, I don't know, into there. Finder might want to move themselves across this way a little bit, for example, and then fractured, it doesn't matter, we'll go into there. And then we do a bunch of stuff, all fine, we'll continue moving. Get rid of our elements. I'm sure I'm making tiny mistakes here. Please don't jump at me in the comments saying, hey, on that turn you missed one element. I promise you, I've looked at this in hours and hours and hours of studied detail. If I'm making mistakes now, it's not because it doesn't work, it's because I'm rushing. So hopefully you will forgive me all of that. So they're gone. Those cards are gone. They're gone. Again, they're gone. So we're now going to go reclaim. We go here. We're now going to get an extra element marker every turn, which really helps as well. So I'm just going to stop messing around with element markers because we're totally covered from that perspective. Now Finder gets to go whatever. It can go G4 again to get me anywhere on the board. In this case, we take the water. Those are gone. Then we play the other 3 cards that we had in our hand. Serpent, of course, is going to reclaim them. Here we'll play those 3 cards. And then Serpent is going to pick some stuff up. Did I do this already? Let me see. Turn 4, growth. No, so I haven't placed the presence yet. That was the proliferate at the end of last turn that took the water. So we take that one. That gives us the earth. So this is now going to be turn 4. This is the last turn where we're not in our growth phase woken up yet. So we will wake up in the slow on turn 4. And then again, we'll play our same two cards. Those 2. And then on fractured side, we're going to again go G3, which is going to go bottom, top, top. Is that right? Yeah, looking at my picture over there, that is right. And then now we're going to play these 3 cards, Pour Time Sideways, Stasis, and Study. We took a Sun from the G3, and that gives us access to the innate. Actually, yeah, again, we didn't have slow to fast. I think when you're doing uniques only, you get a bit less slow to fast. And you can obviously force it with certain things here. There's multiple ways to force it. I can force Gift of Flying Power multiple times on certain turns, for example, or the other card that works quite well is Gift of Primordial Deeps, to give Fractured, for example, an extra moon if you really need to force the slow to fast. So there's loads of ways around it to do that as well here. I'm keeping it kind of simple for the purposes of this. So that's fine. Those are our 3 card plays. There are 3, there are 2 over there. Again, we give away a card with Mentor. We'll maybe put it in Finder's hand so that they've got more junk to throw away. Needless to say, I could have been finding majors and putting them into play and repeating majors and all that other broken stuff here, but I'm not doing any of that for the demonstration. I think I even forgot to explore and put a card into play last turn, didn't I? But again, I'll do it anyway for demo purposes. Where would I put something? Doesn't matter. Put it over there. Okay, again, this turn, what we do, we keep going, we just keep absorbing. So every turn, we're just basically absorbing 1. In this case, we'd absorb Finder again, take 1 more Finder so that it can get you the Sun that you're missing. So there'll always be like that 1 key element. So you need to keep doing this every turn. You keep playing absorb because you're always like 1 element short here and there on the board. So here we would take the Sun from Finder. Actually, would we? No, we give the Sun to Fractured. Yeah, give the Sun to Fractured, and then we would go dedicate 1 of our slips to Finder so that they can get 1 of their cards back. For example, get Aid from the Spirit Speakers back and play it, and that'll give them again the max in 8. So again, multiple different ways to go about doing this, but that's kind of what we could do here. What else? Yeah, the same sort of stuff. Play ages, play absorb, do the proliferation again. So here we'd go bottom, We'd of course do three slips this turn, so that's going to put 3 back on. So it'll be 2, 2, 1. Now we're going to proliferate 1, 2, and 3 with Finder for the fast Annie. Oh yeah, that's another way to do this. So in this case, if we gave if we had a way to put a moon card into play from memory over onto Fractured, they'd get their slow to fast on the innate, and then the slow to fast unlocks the Annie, so that we didn't actually have to dedicate any of the slips to Finder. Again, that's this kind of, all sorts of flexibilities within the system here. So again, we put some presents out, and again, now we're really starting to get to the point at the end of turn 4 where we're thinking about bringing the board back together for the Quake, because the Quake is on next turn. So what we might do is we just kind of put whatever our presents with Finder in the same lands as a Snake, that kind of thing. We definitely want the land with in the thing itself with Finder. We'd again probably put another one in there with Snake, and then I don't know, whatever. Fracture's presence goes there. So again, we're moving stuff around. We're using all these cards to kind of gather and consolidate everything in here. Anything else that we need to look at especially? No, not really. So we continue moving on. You're all gone. You're gone. But now, importantly, we are now at the 5 spot. We've been obviously kind of, consolidating energy as we've gone along. So that's all fine. So now we pick this back up, and now when we go add a presence and maybe move a presence in here, we're now ready for the Quake. So we have 5 cards in our hand. We have the 4 uniques, plus we have the Boon of Ancient Memories. We play all of these, and it's fire, 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 fire. So we're 4 fire. That puts us 2 fire short. So let's just get our elements here so that we can show what we're short. For the max level of the innate, we need 6 fire. So that's going to be, we're 2 fire short. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 moon. So we're 1 moon short because we only need 5 of them. And then we have earth here and 1, 2. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 earth. So we're 1 earth short. That's the setup. That's the kind of, that's what we're short on the right innate. We're also short a plant for the fast proliferate, which obviously helps, right? And because it's more presence on the board. So they're the kind of 5 elements that we want. In this case, what we can do is we can take, 3 of them as our trying to remember now. Actually, I'll just go and look at the bloody thing on the next turn, don't I? Turn 5 growth. So take the 5 of them. Oh yeah, no. So we took. I guess I'm putting a plant here, and then what? I'm short those 4. Is that correct? Turn 5 grow. Turn 5 end fast. How did I get to this? Did I do the fast? And oh no, I didn't. Oh yeah, I did. Let's see how I did that. Yeah, so I reclaimed anyway on Fractured side. Took 2 thing here. Oh yeah, I don't think I did a fast Quake. That was the thing. So if I wanted the fast Quake here, I could go Blur, 2 card plays, Blur, and let's say Study. And then I seem to have a bunch of elements in play on this picture. Sounds like I gave elemental teachings to Fractured. Why would that make sense? Or maybe I guess I just wasn't trying to... Oh yeah, because I needed 4 elements. I think I wasn't trying to Quake this turn. I think that's what it was. I could force it through, but I didn't. I think that's what I did. So yeah. I think I just, in this case, I gave out teachings to Fractured. And I gave them, let's say, 2 sun and a moon. Not 100% sure why I did it this exact way, but obviously contextually for the game it made sense at the time, so that's fine. I knew there was one turn where I gave Fractured elements, so this is the turn that I did that. That is a fast quake, or sorry, it's a fast left innate, but it's not a fast quake. That's what I was confused about. So I fast left innated. I got another presence into play for whatever reason that seemed like it made sense. On Finder's side, I did a reclaim. I got all these cards back in my hand, and I did a fast proliferate to the Annie, and again that can go wherever. And then I played whatever 3 cards. I think I have 5 cards in play, so I must have slipped Finder a bunch this turn for whatever reason. So look, let's just say I play some cards with Finder. It doesn't really matter at this point. I've got loads of elements. I've got all my innates are maxed. I can keep aegising as much as I want. By the time you get to this state in the game, you're very much on end the game territory. You have the board locked down. We basically haven't taken any blight in this whole game into almost any adversary combo. I've never flipped a blight card. I've taken very few blight total with this team across all sorts of combinations. So now what we're really doing here is, with all our card plays on the last couple of turns, all that stuff I was rushing through, what I would have been doing here is just continually looking at, moved maybe a couple of invaders plus move my presence with Snake. Do something plus move my presence with Snake. And I'm consolidating all of my presence back into the middle of the island. That's the kind of way that you build up, you control, you keep controlling, you keep keeping the board under wraps, and always, as much as possible, pushing your presence back into this central area. So this would have been the 5th turn. I didn't hit the Quake this turn. I gave my elements over here, but on the next turn we'd essentially do the same thing again. We'd place another presence in here. Now we hit our Annie. So we have this deterministic turn 6 fast win, because those would be gone. Those elements would be gone. We would have spent our 3 on our three slips last turn, and now we would have a G3 again. And now we can go with G3, these 3 cards. We take our sun again. Our absorb gives us the moon, and we have the max innate with 3. What do you call it? Let me see. Turn 6. Where am I? Turn 6 growth. Yeah. We've got 3 card plays, of course. Sorry, so that's empty. I was confusing myself there. That's empty. We take three time, 3 card plays. Max innate, don't need any support over here. We again play our 5 cards out, but now we have the Annie, and that means that goes like that, and then we can dedicate the three elements from shifting memory to give me exactly enough to innate fast. So that, with no cards drafted, no intervention, no RNG, no anything else, we can get to a turn 6 fast Quake. We can do much better when we draft cards. And I don't even mean major powers. Just minors, any minors that I found, I just put them into play. Like you saw, I was only 1 element short last turn. This random flow down river, blow down wind, that's a full turn earlier of this innate. I would have fast phased the Quake last turn. And then if I go to the major deck and I start drafting things like Indom and whatever else, you just go like, Indom, copy it, get like 2 extra presents. You can like start doing fast Quakes on like turn 3, turn 4 sort of stuff. It's just completely bananas. But again, I didn't want to showcase all of that on this particular game. I wanted to keep it as simple as possible and show you that with only uniques and innates, you do this. And then what we do is we just go fast innate, pay the 7, deal whatever it is on this board right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, deal 10 damage in here. This is what I talked about earlier in the video. 10 in here, 10 in all the adjacent lands. Maybe I've randomly thrown a presence up there with Finder, and now I open the ways up into this huge problem land, 10 up there as well. And we do that on this turn, and we're just going to do it again next turn. So, Finder also has cards in play that, whatever, they move the stuff around. So you're not only are you getting all your presence into the center, you're also putting all of the invaders where they need to be as well. You can do this the other way too. As I said, sometimes you will have a little bit more of a traditional Quake where you might have, like, I don't know, maybe do 8, for example, in the center, and most of your invaders are in there, but you didn't have quite enough actions to get everything sorted. So maybe what you did was you planned for, there's a couple up there, I'll maybe put 2 in there. and maybe I might put, for example, those two up there, and that picks off like random towns and random bits and pieces around, and and then you kind of clear the whole board that way. But again, you always have full control and you're planning multiple turns in advance. That's all of that. It's an hour and a half. That's way, way, way too long. I really didn't want to make this an hour and a half video, but hopefully you've seen how it works. You could follow along, and I didn't bore you to death with all of those operations. It's super broken. It's crazy strong. I want to continue just to the end here because I had a couple of little things that I wanted to talk about before I wrap the video up. I have tested this into some crazy strong things. And when I say crazy strong, I mean like England Habsburg was one I mentioned. I played against them, and I think I took half of the major deck away. I took the best half of the major deck away, and I only played with the worst majors in the game, or the worst half of the major deck. I beat up several of the 6/6s with uniques only. And when I say 6/6s, I mean Prussia, Russia, which is for me actually probably the single hardest of all 56 combinations with both orderings. The Prussia-Russia deck is insane. It goes 3-3-2-3 as your first 4 cards. I beat that with uniques only, if I remember correctly. It just beats everything. It's completely insane. So I have tested this theory. I'm not just saying this for no reason. It wins games that basically no other team can. And this is the best team in the game, as far as I'm concerned. Will it always do the most single powerful thing? Not necessarily, no. But the consistency is the thing that makes it the best. That other team that I talked about, that red play with the Ninja Sea Turtles, it does banana stuff. It does like cast down in the briny deep, crazy things and all of that. This team can do that to an extent, maybe not quite as good as the other team can, but the other team can't win all the time, every time, guaranteed. So that's where the difference comes in. It's not about power, it's about consistency. That brings me to my final little slide here. I am going to wrap this up now in just a second. I just wanted to talk about pros and cons very quickly before I closed out. I've already mentioned it there. It's the consistency of this without relying on drafting. You have the flexibility to adapt to any threat. Like I said, a lot of this is the defensive, aegis type of stuff that already existed. The Serpent stuff could already do that, but it could not add an extra land for every aegis. It could not bring all the invaders back together at the end of the game to guarantee the win with the Quake. It could not isolate the lands to stop England Habsburg killing you. The problem with a lot of those lost conditions is it's anywhere on the board. So when you have like these 4, 5, 6 spirit teams with like all the broken stuff, like imagine this, and then you add green in, and then you also add downpour, and you get loads more repeats, and you do loads of broken stuff. That's great. But any one of those boards hits a lost condition for England Habsburg, and you're dead. So that's kind of where the finder thing comes in. You keep it as tight and neat as possible, and you flexibly adapt to any situation and any seed that comes up. So that is why I think this team is sort of uniquely in the position to be 100% into everything. And by the way, when we say not 100%, we really mean 99, 99.9. Nothing is ever 100, of course. Don't worry. Before anybody wants to jump in the comments and say it can't possibly, we can't guarantee it's 100. I know, we definitely can't guarantee that, of course. But for me, I suspect it's 99 point whatever. Anyway, you retain the power. There's another pro. You still have the major capabilities. You still make infinite energy. You can still do all that other crazy stuff that I talked about that this team could do anyway. I just showed you the variant that doesn't do any of it because this is the guaranteed package. But if I throw all of that out and don't mess around with only uniques, I've got 4 major powers here. What were they? Were any of them good? Unleash a turn to the self-zone essence. That's pretty good, but none of those were going to break the game for us on Fractured here. But yeah, look, I've got some face-down miners here. Were any of those the support miners? No, they actually weren't. What about over here? 2 more face-down cards. Were any of these relevant? Gift of Power, pretty good one, but it's not breaking the game. But as soon as you find Gift of Nature's Connection, or whatever, any of those cards, Elemental Boon, like the thing just goes nuts and it gets like a turn or 2 faster or whatever. So again, that's kind of all of that. Other pros quickly here, the event deck, you've got full control over that. All you care about is keeping the Blight card from flipping, because if that flips, it's a big problem. So we don't want that to flip because we do not want to lose presence. As you can see, presence is absolutely critical with this team. You play on very low presence count for a lot of the game, so you do not want to let the blight card flip. You do not want to hit blighted events, so you just don't. That's your priority. That's the number one priority. So you have very low risk from edge cases. You don't care about the fear deck at all. Like I just said, or like I said at the start of the game, you can gain 0 fear for this whole game and then just clear every invader at the very end and just win the terror level 1. I've done it multiple times. I've already gotten multiple terror level 1 victories with this team into 6/6s because you just don't care. And it's actually even good because against Russia, the less fear you gain, the better. So you put yourself at less risk to the fear bombs, all that kind of stuff. So, things like moving stuff around, that event that we saw that was like, explore with a town instead of an explore, they're all absolutely meaningless. They're completely nothing. You've just got such massive amounts of control and defend that most of that is just meaningless. The thing you care about is don't take blight, don't flip the blight card, don't lose presence. Almost anything else doesn't matter. It's just so safe and healthy. That's kind of the bottom line here. It's just very, very safe. Couple of cons here, and then I really am done. As I say, you're very reliant on your limited presence. Thankfully, there's very, very little in the event deck from Healthy Island that can put your presence under risk. There's 1 or 2. There's a couple of small things in there, and I do want to go and have a full analysis. But I have gone through and checked the event deck, and it's very safe from the healthy side of things. So generally speaking, as long as you don't flip the blight card, your presence is mostly safe. Yeah, I mean, you will get to turns where you do stuff like, especially the big Habsburg Sweden type combos where they're ravaging for like 15. You're gonna have to do turns where you go like defend for exactly 15. If I hit a +2 or a +1 on the ravage, it might cause some blight, but it's never going to kill me. You're never going to lose. But sometimes you have to just go, yeah, an edge case might place 4 blight here. It's fine. As long as I'm not flipping the card, no big deal. If you're close to flipping the card, then you have to really go and lean more into protecting from the edge cases, which you usually can, which is the good news. Yeah, you need to stay healthy. That's one of the biggest cons of this team is if that blight card flips, you're now at risk of not only the blight card itself, but also all those blighted events. And if you start getting forced presence destruction here, things get a lot harder. It's still manageable. It's not game over, but as you can see here, so much of all of these intricate pieces, you're reliant on like one element. 1 extra this, 1 extra that. And if I now can't absorb anymore because our presence is under duress, I'm a lot less efficient. I'm a lot less optimized. So the team really does want that, but it's not game over if you hit it. So thankfully, again, that's not a disaster, but you really don't want to flip that card. You don't get to remove that much plastic is another problem here. I really thought that Habsburg 6, France 1 was going to be a problem for this team. Red Revenge was telling me he was really sure that it was going to be a problem. I played it with... Did I do that with uniques only as well? I think I maybe did, or maybe that was the one I did with half the majors gone or something like that. I beat it. Like, I absolutely destroyed it. It wasn't even close. It was laughably not close. And it was only just doing this. I just kept moving. I focused on moving the Han in for defense, and I just kept the town count down, and I was fine. And I myself thought it was going to be a problem as well, because you can't really kill stuff, especially if you're doing this unique thing here. But defend plus the hand was actually enough. So that was fine here. Again, the England loss condition, the France loss condition, they're not really putting you at risk for the most part. Just keep on top of it and you'll be okay. And finally, the very last con of this is it's not very fun. If you've reached the end of this video and you listen to me race through and say as much as I can to try give it sort of a guide on the team and give you some sort of the platform to go and try this yourself, it's not that fun because a lot of it is templated. As I said, it's 90% do this, do this, do this, do this, do the thing, and then it's like 10% super fun and interesting when Finder is doing all the little tricks and you can think for a long time to figure the Finder lines out. That, for me, is very fun, but a lot of the rest of it isn't. Reclaim, play 2 cards. Reclaim, play 2 cards. Reclaim, play 2 cards. Pretty boring. So this is certainly not for the thrill seekers among you, but it is very much for those among you who are like me, like to push the thing to the boundary, like to really see how far you can stretch the thing and how you know, where are the edges of the game? Where are the boundaries of the game? And can you go beyond them? This team is very good for doing that. So very interesting, not so much on the fun side. That is going to be it. Thank you so much if you stayed until the very end. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop an old comment and all that and the thing, or maybe share with a friend. Subscribe to the channel perhaps, and consider looking at some of my other content as well. I'm going to be back for season 2 of the show very, very soon. Now, this is kind of one of the last things I wanted to get done. We're coming up to Christmas time in 2025 now, so New Year 26 was when I was thinking about getting season 2 back online. So I do have the final 6-6 game of the 6-6 challenge to play, which I'm playing with this team. That's why I wanted to get this done first, get it up online, and then get my final 6-6 game. So that's going to be against, I think it's Habsburg, Prussia, which is a challenging combo. Probably not going to be challenging for this team in truth. I don't think that will be a particularly tense game. I'll probably beat it very soundly, but you know what? It's okay. I don't mind getting to the very end with a bit of a anticlimax in a sense, because I'd be happy to have this team be shown in a full playthrough game. So that is what you're going to look out for next. For now, this has been the Untitled Goose Team. I have been Tepid Goose. This has been the BlunderSpeaker Show. Much appreciated for hanging around. I'll see you the next time.